The sun had barely risen when Finn, Eric, Tilly, and Rusty the dog set off from the ancient library. The weight of Elder Cortez' words clung to them like a heavy cloak. The mention of the Lost Kingdom of Aeryndor stirred something deep in Finn, an ancient fear, perhaps, but also a sense of duty. He could feel it in his bones that this wasn't just another adventure. It was the beginning of something far more dangerous, something darker than anything they had ever faced before. They journeyed for days, crossing through thick forests where the trees stood tall and ominous, their branches gnarled like ancient hands reaching out to snatch intruders. The path grew narrower with each passing day, and the land around them became less forgiving. Sharp rocks jutted out of the ground like teeth, and eerie fogs rolled in without warning, making it hard to tell if they were still on the right path. The only thing that kept them moving forward was the faint glow of Tilly's wings, her magical light guiding them through the dense underbrush. Rusty trotted beside Finn, his golden brown fur glowing faintly in the light. He was ever watchful, his ears pricked up, ready to protect his companions from any danger that might arise. Though Finn often found comfort in Rusty's presence, there was an uneasy feeling in the air, an unnatural stillness that seemed to follow them wherever they went. As they moved deeper into the wilds, Tilly's usually bright demeanor grew more serious. She hovered close to Finn, occasionally glancing over her shoulder as if sensing something lurking just beyond their view. One evening, they set up camp near the edge of a dark, forbidding canyon. The rocks here were jagged and steep, and the sound of the wind howling through the cracks was like the distant wailing of lost souls. It made everyone uneasy, even Rusty, who stuck close to Finn's side. The sky overhead was a blanket of stars, but their beauty felt distant and cold. Eric, strong and confident as always, built a small fire to keep them warm, but the flames seemed feeble against the overwhelming darkness surrounding them. "I don't like this place," Eric muttered, sharpening his sword on a nearby rock. "Feels like we're being watched." Finn agreed but didn't say it aloud. He sat next to the fire, staring into the flickering flames, his mind churning with the thought of Aeryndor and the shadows Elder Cortez had warned them about. Rusty lay beside him, head on his paws, his eyes wide and alert, watching the dark beyond the campfire. "I feel it too," Tilly said softly, hovering near Finn's shoulder. Her wings, usually bright and shimmering, seemed dimmer in the oppressive atmosphere. "Something's out there." Suddenly, the silence of the night was shattered by a low, distant rumble. Finn shot to his feet, his heart pounding in his chest. Rusty immediately stood at attention, his body tense and ears perked up. Eric was already on his feet, his hand on the hilt of his sword, eyes scanning the horizon. The ground beneath them trembled slightly, and a chill ran through the air. "What was that?" Eric asked, his voice low and cautious. Before anyone could answer, the shadows at the edge of the canyon began to move. It was subtle at first, a slight ripple in the darkness, but then they saw a figure emerging from the blackness. It was tall and menacing, cloaked in swirling mist that seemed to pull the very light from the world around it. The figure's face was obscured, but its eyes gleamed red, glowing like embers from some ancient, unholy fire. "You've come far, boy," the figure spoke, its voice a low, echoing growl that sent shivers down Finn's spine. "But the shadows of Aeryndor are endless. You cannot hope to defeat what you do not understand." Finn's breath caught in his throat. His mind raced, trying to process the strange figure's words. Who was this creature? And how did it know about their journey? Rusty growled low in his throat, stepping protectively in front of Finn, his fur bristling. Eric unsheathed his sword, the blade glinting in the dim firelight, and stepped forward, ready to fight. Tilly darted in front of Finn, her wings glowing brighter, casting a faint light over the shadowy figure. "Who are you?" Finn demanded, his voice stronger than he felt. His hand clenched tightly around the small stone he kept in his pocket, the same one they had retrieved from their previous journey. Its faint warmth reassured him. The figure laughed, a hollow, cold sound that echoed through the canyon. "I am but a whisper of the darkness that awaits you. The true Shadow of Aeryndor has yet to be revealed." With a flick of the figure's hand, tendrils of dark energy shot forth, snaking toward them with terrifying speed. They wrapped around Finn, Eric, and Tilly like vines, pulling them toward the ground. Finn struggled, but the weight of the darkness was overwhelming, pressing down on him like an invisible force. Aeric swung his sword, but the tendrils seemed to absorb the blade's blows. Rusty barked fiercely, lunging at the dark tendrils, biting and clawing at them. But even he couldn't break through their grip. Finn could feel the darkness tightening around him, sapping his strength. His vision blurred, and for a moment, it felt like the world was slipping away. Then, in the depths of his mind, Finn felt something stir. It was a memory, a distant echo of the power they had unlocked when they found the Stones of Balance. He remembered the light they had used to defeat the enemies of old, the energy that flowed through the stones like a river of life. Finn closed his eyes, focusing on that memory, on the warmth of the stone in his pocket. He reached deep within himself, summoning the energy he knew was there. And then, with a sudden burst of light, the tendrils of darkness exploded away from them, evaporating into nothing. The shadowy figure recoiled, hissing in anger. Its red eyes flared as it slowly began to dissolve into the night. "You are stronger than I thought, but you cannot escape the shadow that looms over Aeryndor. The darkness will return." With that, the figure vanished into the swirling mist, leaving behind only silence. Finn gasped for breath, his heart pounding in his chest. Rusty licked his hand, whimpering softly, sensing his distress. Aeric sheathed his sword, his face grim. "That was no ordinary creature," he said quietly. "We're dealing with something far more powerful." Tilly fluttered beside them, her wings still glowing faintly. "The darkness in Aeryndor is old... older than the stones, even. We must be careful." Finn nodded, his thoughts still racing. He knew now that their journey was far from over. The Shadow of Aeryndor had only just begun to reveal itself, and whatever lay ahead was going to test them in ways they had never imagined. As they packed up their camp and prepared to continue their journey, Finn glanced back at the canyon where the shadow had first appeared. The night seemed darker now, more foreboding, but Finn wasn't afraid. He had faced the darkness once, and he would face it again. The journey to Aeryndor had only just begun, and the shadows were waiting.